Well then, I believe we're on episode 7 of this already, of this podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Or if you're a new listener, welcome. I welcome you, and I hope that you find whatever you're listening to interesting. I mean, it just started, right? But I hope you stick around enough, because it's going to get pretty good. Because we're going to tackle a pretty big question today. Today we're going to ask ourselves, what is the meaning of life? And that's a question that I think a lot of people want to know. I want to know what it is. I think you as a listener want to know what it is. And I think everybody you know wants to know what it is. And even everybody you don't know. I think it's something that everybody wants to know the answer to. All right. So what is the meaning of life? Well, there are a lot of answers to it. They might not be true. They might not be what you're expecting. They might not be the answer you're looking for, but there are a lot of answers out there. I know there's a lot of people that say that the meaning of life is to be happy, or that the meaning of life is to love everyone, or to live life to the fullest. And those are all nice things, right? I mean, it's good to love everyone. It's good to be happy. It's good to live life to the fullest, no matter who you are or what sort of background you come from, I guess. Of course, if you're religious, there might be a different answer. I mean, if you look at Christianity, for example, I know that the meaning of life is to basically glorify God. That's literally the answer, right? I mean, that's, if you're a Christian, right, that's what you're supposed to do, really. I mean, of course, enjoy life too, but that's literally what you're supposed to do. Same thing with Islam, you know. And I'm not saying I am the authority on this. I mean, that's kind of like what you're supposed to do, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, some people also say that there's no meaning at all, really, to life. They say, what's the point of anything? What's the point of me waking up in the morning? What's the point of me going to work or going to school, or making friends or doing anything, right? I hope that that's not the outlook that you as a listener have. I mean, that would be very depressing, and I hope that I can convince those kind of people that that's not really the way to look at things. What do I believe? Well, if you want to know what I believe, there's this quote that did really have an impact on me. It's this quote by Carl Jung, who, for those who don't know, was a very famous psychologist. I don't really know what he was famous for, but I know that he was pretty famous, and I like a lot of the stuff he talks about, especially this quote, which I thought was very powerful, and like I said, had an impact on me. But this quote is, well, I'll just read it, and it goes like this. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. What that quote essentially means is that life doesn't have an inherent or an intrinsic meaning. And by the way, I don't really know the difference between those two words. But I hope that I can get the point across. But that life has no inherent or intrinsic meaning, but that it has a meaning if we give it one. So if you don't give life a meaning, then what meaning is there to it? Sorry. But that is essentially what I believe, that the meaning of life is to look for a meaning. You know, that it's like that saying about how it's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. And that's really how life is. I mean, I don't want to be cliche about it or anything, but that's really how life is. It's not about the end, or maybe it is for some people. like afterlife and stuff like that. Well, I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. But maybe that was just a bad analogy. But what I'm trying to say is that life isn't about, it's not about worrying about the end all the time. It's about living in the present moment. And by the present moment, I don't mean the present now, I mean, I think it's still important to worry about the future and stuff like that, and even the past. But what I mean by the present is your life. I don't think it's important at all or I don't even think it's helpful at all to worry about the afterlife, because it's really one of those things that nobody can do anything about. It's like, we don't know if there's a heaven or a hell, or if there's a Valhalla, or if there's a Nirvana, or if there's nothing at all. And we don't even know where we're going, if there is anything, right? No matter how good we try to be or how bad we try to be. I don't know if anybody tries to be bad. But the thing is, there's nothing we can do about it. And so why waste your time on it, right? And I mean, of course there are going to be those people that can say, well, you'll get into heaven if you accept God, right? Or, well, I mean, that's true, right? Or there'll be those people who are only good because of their religion. I mean, those people are only good because they want to get into heaven. And it's like, well, if you're not being good because you actually want to be good, then maybe you don't deserve to be in heaven. I mean, God may think otherwise, but that's what I think, if I'm being completely honest. It's like, that's why I don't worry about the afterlife. I just worry about my life, what I'm going to do in it, what I'm currently doing, how I'm going to achieve my goals, right? Because it's like, if I worry about the afterlife, then maybe that'll have some sort of unwanted psychological effect, if that makes any sense. But if I just worry about my life and I live it as it is, and I treat the people around me as I want to treat them, then I will go where I deserve to go. That's what I believe. I'll admit I did go off on a bit of a tangent there, but I think what I was originally trying to say is that life has no intrinsic meaning. It really has no meaning unless you give it one. So if you don't give it a meaning, then, of course, you're not going to be very happy with your life. But of course, I don't think everybody really knows how to find a meaning. Maybe that's the problem, is everybody wants meaning, but not everybody really knows how to find it. And rather than give a whole explanation on how to find it, I wanted to highlight something that I found, which I thought made it so much easier to really figure out your life, how it is, how you want it to be, stuff like that. So there's this guy named Viktor Frankl who isn't alive anymore, but he was also a pretty famous psychologist. He wrote a famous book called Man's Search for Meaning, I believe that's what it's called. I still haven't read it, but he's been pretty influential in the world of psychology. He was actually the one who invented logotherapy, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, which, the way I understood it, was a form of therapy in which a person tries to find the meaning of life, or it has something to do with the meaning of life. I really don't understand it at all. Probably should have looked it up, but anyway. he basically highlighted these three values for people who are trying to find meaning in their lives. And these three are creative values, experiential values, and attitudinal values. Now, what creative values center around are obviously what you create. If you create something, I would imagine you would have some sort of passion for what you create and a love for an artist. It's their painting, for music artists, it's their songs. For a sculptor, it's their sculptures, right? For parents, it's their children, right? And so on and so forth. Because the things we create are a part of us, really, and what we create is that part of us which can still live on. It's that part of us which will be around after we die. It's that thing that lets others know that we existed, right? So if you create something, anything really, people will know about you. People will know what kind of person you were like. People will know what you liked, what you disliked, depending on what you created, what you went throughout your life, depending on how detailed you make the work and how much effort you put into it, right? That's something that gives a lot of people meaning. I know it's something that gives me meaning because I do paint, I do draw, I create videos. I have this podcast. This is something that I created. I know I'm definitely passionate about this. This is something that will live on the internet after I'm gone. It's something that people will be able to listen to and hopefully learn from when it gets to a point when I'm no longer able to speak to them, which I think is very important, which is why I always try to put my best effort into making these videos. Even though they might not be the best quality, they're definitely something that I care about, and the viewers are definitely people that I care about, right? But enough about that. The other one I wanted to get into was experiential values, and this is centered around your experiences. The experiences that you go through life can shape us in many ways. I mean, if we have a rough childhood, we could turn out to be rough people. If we have a very happy childhood with no problems, we might be very happy people, but we might not be prepared for the harsh realities of the world, right? So there are many things that can affect us. There are many things that we can witness and experience and go through that shape our values and our beliefs and what we stand for and what we fight for. And I think that all those things are very important because we all live our lives around what we believe in. And of course, maybe one day we experience something we don't like and we want to do something about it, and we base our whole lives around that. I mean, if you look at black people in the South during the 50s, for example, I'm sure somebody said, hey, I'm tired of this. I'm going to fight for my rights. And eventually they fought so hard that they actually got rid of the Jim Crow laws. So that's something that all those civil rights leaders really became known for, right? Because of their experiences. Or maybe you watch a movie one day and it really touches you in a way. And you think, well, who's this director? What other movies has he made? and you watch their movies, and you watch all their movies, and you like their movies, and you think one day, maybe I want to be a movie director. And that experience is what led you to become something big, right? Somebody famous. You might become somebody big in Hollywood, right? So those are just a few examples of how your experiences are very important for finding the meaning in your life. And the last one, of course, is the attitudinal values, which is, it really centers around your attitude. I mean, if you're going to be all sad and nihilistic about everything, I mean, of course your life isn't going to go as expected and it's going to stay exactly the way it is. But if you decide to be happy about it, maybe do something about it and motivate yourself and get up and do something about your life, then of course there is going to be change, right? Nothing is going to change unless you make that change happen. I mean, if you're striving towards something and you go the whole way thinking this isn't going to work, then literally why are you even trying, right? But if you go with the outlook of, I hope this is going to work, or I know this is going to work, then it just might. It will have a higher chance, definitely, of it going as planned. But it is also really about perspective, because complaining about a problem isn't going to make it go away, unless you get a large group of people that also complain about it, because that's essentially the definition of protesting. But what a lot of people do is they tend to play the victim, really, when they have any problem in their life. And they do that so often that all these problems just kind of build up on them and they're overwhelmed, and it's just not, it doesn't go well for them, right? It never has, and it never will. Don't wait for something to happen, or don't wait for somebody to come save you. It's all about you, right? And I'm not saying that you're the only person who cares about yourself, I guess. I'm positive that there is somebody out there that cares about you and will help you, right? But ultimately, it is up to you to decide what you want to do with your life and where you want that life to go. But yeah, that's pretty much what those 3 values are. I thought they were pretty useful when I read about them. If it wasn't for that, I would have been struggling to explain all this, honestly, and I probably would have missed a lot of stuff that I fortunately did get to talk about, but without it, I don't know what I would have done. But after all of this discussion, what even is the meaning of life, right? Well, I mean, like I said before, I think that the meaning of life doesn't exist unless you give it one. I mean, it's different for everybody, I think. We're all born without meaning, without purpose, and I believe that we decide what we want to do with our lives and what sort of legacies we want to leave behind and what sort of people we want to become and how we want to influence others and the world, ultimately, if that's the scale you want to live your life on. But yeah, I mean, it is important to ask those kinds of questions. Of course, I believe that it's important to ask all the time. I believe it's important to question everything. That's why I made this podcast. That's why I titled it Ask Yourself This, because I believe it's important to question everything that you believe, because it is only then that you will really get a deeper understanding of what you believe and even of what you don't believe, or what you don't know you believe. I don't know. I think that was a little difficult to explain for me, but I hope I was able to get that point across. If I'm being completely honest, I'm just going to say I don't know how to end this episode, but I'm going to say that I hope you do ask yourselves those big questions on a regular basis. And in this particular instance, I hope that you ask yourself this: what is the meaning of life?